Namaskar to everyone. We the students of 7th. Our school is Balayesu English Medium High School. Not only the knowledge from our books, our management has given to learn different topics like G20, Constitution, budget. We got the opportunity to discuss about defense policy. My colleagues are here to discuss about the defense policy. Now, my colleagues will start our seminar. Saishrita say about the Saishrita and Sana and Priyanka say about India's path towards greater development. Manaswini, Prasanna and Netra submit the topic of India's path toward great power status and army modernization. Analyze the topic of India's modernization reforms, the Amisha and Lasya. I call upon the Sahasra, Ashmita and Shruti Prasanna and Niharika to share the topic with us, the India's missiles defense system and policy. I call Yamini to say about the India's challenging policy in 21st century. To submit the topic of India's defense industrial policy by Manasvi and Akshaya. India is the world's second most populous nation that are the nuclear weapons in the conventional with billion of 72. Now, my dear colleagues, start our summit. First, I call upon Sai Shrita say about power and development.
Sure. China has taken serious note of India's growing military power over the last decade. India, which has traditionally talked of the power of argument of power. India's growing military profile is especially evident in the maritime domain. India and the balance of power. India is now on the verge of becoming a great power. India is now emerging as the swing state in the global balance of power. It has expanded relations with great power, especially the United States. Varieties of influence. The planned implementation of South Asian free trade. It has nonetheless come to trust Washington as a source of positive influence. India unbound progress on resolution of either of the conflicts, especially the one over Kashmir. Pakistan and Bangladesh have been biggest contributors among the peacekeeping operations.
Sai Shrita, what are the Axis and allies?
The Axis and allies or India moved quickly to repair the situation barely 15 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, growing from less than 200 million in 2002 nearly 20 billion in 2005. Charm offensive, India is aligned itself with the Soviet Union. Kashmir was one of the world's most dangerous nuclear flashpoints, as well as the nature of its real politics over the past 60 years in balancing and countering Islam in the Middle East.
Sana, continue the topic.
Sure. India's defense policy in major transition. Since Russia now supplies some 70% of weapons import this report. Arms sales and security cooperation with India. Russia now supplies some 70% of import this report, thus highlighting a congruence of vision conserving India's future. International position. As a Secretary of State Colin Powell implicitly suggestion in 2001, behind the exiting 10 billions of weapons sales from Russia to India. India leading weapons import this report. Rise of weapons, rise of military power production in India. When Air Chief Marshal S.P. Tyagi was chief of the aircraft, first the concept of Indian military power production is defined. In
Sana, say about major transaction.
India's defense policy in major transition. Since Russia now supplies some 70% of Indian weapons import this report. Arms sales and security cooperation with India.
Priyanka, share your thoughts with us.
Exactly. India's military power and defense policy. The 3,002 man 91 Infantry Brigade based at Thiruvananthapuram. Should the Indian military reach its target ambitions lift capacity of 10,000 personnel, the Missile Development Program of India, missile used by Indians for the first time in the 18th century during the period of Tipu Sultan in the fight against the British. Defense manufacturing in India. Anil Ambani wants to make missiles, helicopters. Kolkata based Nashtico India Advanced Technology in New Delhi.
Priyanka, what are the private players in real benefits?
According to A.K. Gupta, Secretary, Department of Defense, Production, Ministry of Defense, P. 751, Project for Procurement of 6 Conventional in the Indian Navy. Boost Make in India, in which Make in India was the key highlight, a new procurement category designed, developed and manufactured. Looking forward, the government is doing its bit with programs like Make in India to enhance the industrial capacity. Robust supply chain. A strong supply chain is critical for a defense production Ministry of Defense of 6 conventional in the Indian Navy. Robust supply chain, a sea of opportunity. The governments to reduce import dependence in defense by 350 to 40 are focusing on moving from a buyer seller.
Manaswini, say about India's path toward great powers.
Yeah, I can. India's path toward great power status and army modernization. Indian leaders have posed great power and influence in variety ways. The Indian leaders are also sought to build self-help capabilities in via economic. The road has been bumpy the decades of independence. Guarding independence without might in 1948 to 1970. Guarding independence without might in 1948 to 1970. Primarily, the great powers in 3 ways. The India's first Foreign Secretary is Honorable Giriraj Shankar Bajpai, NAM, Non-Alignment Movement. The Nehru Rose tried to establish non-alignment movement in 1955 of G77. Suffering from sluggish growth in 1971 to 1990. The first test of smiling Buddha in Pokhran to an enable of it can be included in G24. Retaliation and revolutioning in 1991 to 2000. After the Cold War brought profound shift of domestic foreign policy, SAARC, South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation, enhancing capabilities. The world respects India because it has an capacity to emerge great powers. United States, Australia, Japan and Singapore are feather of an Bay of Bengal to crucial to an Malacca. International institutions, WTO, World Trade Organization. Mainly, the World Trade Organization postcodes poor countries, ADB.
Manaswini, what the Indian leader posed?
The Indian leaders have posed great powers in 3 ways.
Sashrita, tell about recent developments of weapons in 2025.
Definitely. The recent developments late 2025 high-level meetings discussions occurred during 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. Focus on supply chains or the artillery ammo for the continuing defense trade. In essence, is the F7 in your likely refers to the defense strips with Russia.
And also, what the F7 mites refers to?
The F7 mites refers to the official term of the advanced technology platforms like Sukhoi Su-57 jet planes. Key developments late 2025. Joint Summit December 2025 S-500 missile system Su-57 jets BrahMos missile T-72 engine deals March 2025 Aero India 2025. The joint summit was also called the Make in India. The Aero India was developed in 2025. Overall trend, the partnership shifting with the traditional arms supply with the strategic collaboration.
Prasanna, share your ideas with us.
Definitely. Instead, till recently, some soldiers were still using World War II equipment and clothing. Shameful as it was, soldiers had to buy rucksacks and other condiments from the market. DRDO is still to come out with a light bulletproof vest. The sustained counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism campaign in Jammu and Kashmir. Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan last 76 days. The Indian Army should not get overly secured by high-sounding warfare like net-centric. Just last month, Honorable Prime Minister Manmohan Singh Garu started this ground reality.
Prasanna, what is the full form of FINSAS?
The full form of FINSAS, the Future Infantry Soldier as a System, is also must empower, not encumber the soldier. Army modernization, enhancing capabilities without reducing manpower. Main battle tanks and infantry combat vehicles are the driving forces of India's conventional deterrence. The system called Future Infantry Soldier as a System is also under development. The three strategic circles. In the first, India has sought privacy and a veto over the actions of outside powers. In the second, India has sought to balance the influence of other powers. In the third, the India has great powers in international peace and security. Development of Indian Army. The two epics Ramayana and Mahabharata constitute fundamental framework around in which in Indian Army. The Astra Shastra is one of the most significant document of military history has never been written.
Neta, say about army and modernizations.
Sure. However, there are also more dawn markets, precipitation to whose darker bronzes cannot be totally set aside. Amongst these are the massive and segmentally unstoppable peaceful rise, the comeback of Islamic Jihad on India, Republic of Islamic, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Southeast Asia. Expecting the unlikely events turn about reveals in Indian traditional political worldview within decade. Focus on 2020. However, the homeland and never passively ruled for proactive, preemptive intervention within or outside the country. The allure of princely states Kashmir, Hyderabad, and Gunjan, viewed from final month 2004 to Indian Army 2020, 15th year ahead.
Netra, what is the full form of OOW?
The full form of OOW, Operation Other Than Was, modernizing the Indian Army. For over a decade, the Indian Army have modernized political neglect and lack of budgetary support. The US 12 billions was provided for army, decrease less than 2.0% of project GDP.
Hamisha, say about India's military powers.
Exactly. In India, civil military relations have focused on too heavily on one side of the problem, how to ensure the civilian control over the armed forces while neglecting others. In India, civil-military relations caused the military modernization and reforms, suffering from lack of political guidance. In 1968 nuclear test that India could not afford further the military retirement. The Indian government has launched the expansion of Indian military forces.
And also, what is mean by IDSA?
The mean by IDSA is Institute of Defence Studies Analysis. In the peacekeeping mission of Sri Lanka became India's victim. In 1968 nuclear test that furthered the military forces. In 1998 nuclear test that India could not push its advantages to its victory. The biggest procurement of aircraft carrier from Russia.
Lasya, tell about modernization reforms.
Definitely, international financial institutions, neither the civilian elects nor. For the time being, the army is objectively the most stable and responsible force to control the country. Their alternatives and representatives of the rising wave of radical Islam who arose from Madras forces and indeed correctly cultivate relations with Kashmiri groups and Afghani Taliban and external. As Indian power increases, so will its ability to strategically encircle. At the same time, India's patience for Pakistan's continuing terrorist provocations. The challenge of China on a border front, 80% of China's oil and gas supplies transmit to Indian Ocean. Interdependence between the two Asian giants, as China is now India's number one trading partner with more than 52 billion. Strait of Malacca and others moving to an offshore defense policy that will include China has been developing a so-called string of pearls, South China Sea, that suggests defensive and offensive positioning towards the PLA.
Lasya, what is the full form of PLA?
The full form of PLA is the People Liberation Army. China's forward-basing strategy will be used to contain India to rapidly achieve money. Military modernization. The military modernization was began on late 1970s. There was three major focuses. Ding re-established civilian control over the military modernization. The second military modernization required reforms of military organization, doctrine, strategy and education. Popular attitudes towards the PLA. The popular attitudes towards the PLA also underwent considerable changes.
Chandni, tell about India's defense planning policy and democracy.
Yes, As regards the planning process, the government has taken a number of measures to improve the structure, process and procedure relating to the defense planning based on the recommendations the group of ministers reforming the national security system. The 5-year annual budgeter newly established the Integrated Defense Staff IDS. The government has taken a number of measures to improve the process and procedure.
Chandni, how much money for the actual defense?
The total actual defense for the budget it is equal to 2,20,000 rupees crores.
Nikshipta, share your topic with us.
Definitely. Headquarters put together the long-term plan requirement of the each services and makes them into one composite plan is called defense plan. The 10th defense plan, even after 3 years of the plan have passed, it is high time that the government prepare a roadmap for self-reliance.
Nikshipta, how much rupees for the development of Agni 2?
6 billion rupees. India's defense preparedness. India's spending on defense has its share of its GOP has remained relatively steady at
2.5 to 3.0%. To ingenious defense research in India must look forward for partnership with private sector. Wars and conflict. No wars in 1975. Borders with Pakistan and China remain calm through both monitored Indian closely. Indian Army. Army focused on mountain welfare training against China and desert welfare training against Pakistan.
Aradhya, say about directing offsets.
Yes, I can. Directing offsets, the 2008 PROCIL list the defense products that qualified for the discharge of offset obligation. It has been concluded that the Netherlands and Switzerland, India is a nation that has a reasonable defense industrial capability. India has been able to achieve a fair degree of indigenization. In some cases, around 76%, India today is designing, settle, frigates and constructing them in India yards.
Yamini, say about India's challenges in 21st century.
Of course, I can. First, India has dealt with the challenge of internal nuclear security without undermining its capacity. The first strategy is known as modernization of India, and the second strategy is known as developmenting the Indian forces. The next micro tissue is used to prevent the environment shadow. This is not simple choice to choose the Indian people. Traditionally, the United States are not very good at all, but there is the wars of plenty of times. There is the another aspect, attention of expansion, factors and process of environment shadows. The emergence of a new military development in South Asia. Nehru implemented policies and economical development, the factors of the international security and the national security. These factors import the South Asia and Southeast Asia. This is not simple choice. The Indian people, the ownership and the nuclear weaponization, the emergence of a new military forces and the development in India. In fact, Wickman China's started relationship since Sino-Wickman's war in 1979. This is the great opportunity to the India, the Indian modernization and the influence of the sans precipitation, the modernization and the sans countries to influence the Southeast Asia. On the 16th November 2001, the officially visited the Malaysia, the Prime Minister to discuss the speech on the topic of the nuclear weaponization.
Yamini, what is the process of India's defense development and factors?
As the emergence of a new military factors and the in South Asia.
Sahasra, tell about critical thinking on defense system.
Oh, okay, let's start it. India's missile defense system and power. The global security architecture has been transformed with the US development of the first phase of India's missile system. The anti-ballistic missile launched of 26 November, the ballistic cruise missile proliferation. The 6 interceptors is Greely, Alaska, and that for Vandenberg Air Force is developed by Agni 2. The Agni 1 and Agni 2 is developed by 3. Surya, Prithvi, Dhanush. The Dhanush is developed by Agni 2, and the propulsion is the both India and Pakistan have a series of connection to head and
Sahasra, what are the 6 interceptors?
the 6 interceptors is Greely, Alaska, and that for Vandenberg Air Force. The Air Force is the launched by 21st century 3 crore 77 lakhs 333 aircrafts recently launched in 21st century. Ground levels. The ground levels is the 21st century is the cooperation of air bases.
Ashmita, continue the topic.
Sure. As mentioned earlier, it was during the mid and late 1980s that the Indian defense industry got relevant during this period. Several projects were undertaken to these projects in the country. It is also reported for Agni 1 has specially designed for specially has Pakistan in their mind.
Ashmita, what is the full form of PLSA?
The full form of PSLV is the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. The objective of countering an incoming missiles and other weapons.
Niharika, what about you thinking on Surya?
In fact, Surya is higher reforms of missile ICBM. Surya with a gang of 6,000 kilometers. Honorable Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Garu, Principal of Scientific Advisor on the Prime Minister. Accurate Hindustan Time, 18th September 2000. All technologies, industrial complexes are available in ICBM. Prithvi. Prithvi is Hindi for Earth is a single stage road mobile short gauge ballistic missile. The missile of corrosive liquid fuel must be loaded immediately prior to launch, which is serious disadvantage on the field. Since that has played many other nations for field operation, Prithvi is transported to all 8 wheels of cola structure for export truck. This missile was deployed and this vehicle was simply launched. Due to the ligament strategic pace of Pakistani, Hindus river valley, where most major Pakistani cities runs to close Indian fortified. Due to the ligament strategic pace of 2000 defense, new reported ahead full production.
Niharika, what is Dhanush?
Dhanush is a derivative of Prithvi program adapted to naval for give us extend gang, neitherly new of future technologies and financial constructions. In September 2000 defense ahead full production. Intention and testing of nuclear warfare in this was completed on Prithvi's SS-150 on September 1997. According to the Dr. Bahandari Maharaja ruling on 1999 in Kalahari War. In development intention in 1983 as a part of the Integrated Guided Development Program under the leadership of Honorable Awal Pakir Jainuddin Abdul Kalam Garu, Principal of Scientific Advisor.
Shruti, take this topic into forward.
Exactly. The Scopon deal will also involve India in a different manner, being responsible for the submarines in India. Argument with MDL in this record, a contract with Germany during the 2001 to 2002 period for the Brahmaputra class frigates produced by India. Countries like Netherlands, Poland and Slovakia has supplied being armored personal carriers APC in 2000. March 29K aircraft Su-30 MKI Su-30 MKI AA 11-12 BM 9A52 BM 23 9A52.
Shruti, what is mean by DRDO?
The meaning of DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization.
Akshaya, say about India's defense industrial policy.
Yes, of course. The India's defense industrial policy. Defense industrial policy in the initial years after independence was guided by the simple phrase called self-sufficiency. This was subsequently modified to self-reliance in the defense production and has become a matter of varied interpretation. However, one can say that the defense industrial policy has broadly consists the three components. First one, maximization of ingenious manufacturing and productions. Second one, license production of what could be
obtained from abroad. And third one, direct purchase of those equipment not covered by the other two categories, but considered essential for ensuring security. Another important unspoken element was that everything, whether ingenious production, license production, and direct purchase, was done within the government setup. On the face of it, the policy components and objectives appear quite sound and logical for a country like India. A sound policy indeed, but the soundness of the policy has to be judged from tangible outcomes. Maximizing ingenious productions would imply more than one thing. It is a known fact that the Defense Research and Development Organization has 50 odd laboratories and establishments.
Akshaya, what is the full form of OF?
The full form of OF is Ordnance Factories.
Manasvi, share your ideas with us.
Definitely. National aspiration and desired capabilities. India's primary strategic priority and goal remains to its socio-economic development to its people. Our national objectives may be summarized as under the Defence Forces of India was the unlimited instrument of the state. The policy changes were to firstly bringing into the private sector, secondly opening the virgin companies by permitting up into the 26th percentage of investment. The first is that given nature to the UPA government, no reforms can be implemented without left concurrence. OFB, Ordnance Factory Board. The most significant features of this policy were offset clause to concept to the Raksha Utpan Ratnas. The government is considering some relaxations in the policy. When the first steps of liberalization were initiated, they nurtured apprehensions about the survival. Our industrial policies should focus on these voids to becoming a meaningful player in the defense sector. The central issue facing is access to contemporary technology. All over the world, companies engage in the business of military hardware extensively. Service officers product and promote business. The Bharat Electronics are profit-making companies. Before concluding, one suggestion of protecting to the PSUs and OFB from domestic players must be progressively withdrawn.
Manasvi, explain about India's production and supply.
Defense production and supply. The Defense Production Department created in 1962 and the Department of Defense Supply set up in 1965 and were merged in 1984 to the constitutive of Department Defense Production and Supplies.
Conclusion. India's military power has grown rapidly. Advanced technologies that are the cyber defense, army, navy and Indian Air Force. Advanced technologies that cyber defense and drones, space-based surveillance that supported by the ISRO. This in the 21st century, civilian major institutions like Ministry of Defense. In the 21st century, that are the faces challenges like general warfare and cyber defense, security, property.
Good, my dear colleagues. In perfect manner, you have submitted your ideas. In many places, search for this topic. Finally, at last, we got a perfect idea about Indian Defence Policy, IDP. So, we analyzed here perfectly. First and most, we thank our brother
for supporting us by giving us all the materials we need. We also thank our school management for giving this platform. We also thank our teachers for supporting us.
East or West?
Bale is the best.
Thank you for the insightful message.
East or West? Bale is the best. East or West? Bale is the best. East or West? Bale is the best. East or West? Bale is the best.